The Queen's Talk, where we honor and celebrate women on their self-love journey, where we share our stories about how we overcame past trauma and where we are now. Welcome to the Queen's Talk, Queens. Hey everybody, I am Leslie from Brown Girls Embrace, and welcome back to the Queen's Talk of 2023. Welcome to the new year, new beginnings, new ventures, new brown girls, new queens, new conversation. So on the Queen's Talk, we talk to other girls in the self-love community about how we gain self-confidence, why we started our self-love journey, and why we made self-care a part of our life. And tonight we have Cadedra from the self-love community, and we're going to get into some things about the self-love community and why she started her brand and all that good stuff. But don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to my YouTube channel at Brown Girls Embrace. And let me get Cadedra on into the room. Hello. How are you?
I'm doing extremely well. How about yourself?
I'm good. Thanks for asking. How was your day?
My day, it was very, very productive. Productive of well-being, okay? Doing everything, preparing for my current launch. So it was a great day.
So we're going to get into some things and talk about this new launch you got going on. But go
Mhm.
ahead and introduce yourself, tell us your name and where you're from and all that good stuff.
So if you don't follow me on IG at Self Care Lifestyle, or if you do, I'm about to do my regular intro. So what's up, y'all? It's your girl D, and I am your self care coach. Self Care Lifestyle is my Black-owned wellness business that coaches Black women who wants to become a source of self awareness, self love, self worth and value through workshops, the academy, newsletters, and toolkits of the mind, body, soul, and spirit.
Yes, yes, yes. I can't wait for this conversation. You have good energy from
Mm.
the time that I've been talking to you do a DM. So now, good energy, good vibes. I feel like it's gonna be a good conversation tonight. So go ahead and get into your brain and tell us how you started and about the self love venture you've been on and everything.
So, I wish I had one of them stories where I could say, like, I just always knew this was going to be my journey, baby. No, the brand found me. Okay. Like when I first started, when a lot of people, when I was, I always worked in the social work field or fields where I dealt with a youth with a lot of trauma and things within that nature. And so working in that field, oftentimes people don't take care of themselves. They burnt out. And they will always ask me, like, what are your tips of how are you taking care of yourself? How are you still so happy? And how are you're so well? And I'm like, one day I was like, let me just create a workshop and let y'all know. But it was literally like when I tell you, it literally was like that was just kind of a thought of it because first, like on Facebook and stuff, I always felt inspired. I always felt like this discernment in me, like to just share positive stuff. So I started sharing positive stuff on Facebook and stuff like that. I'm like, oh, people liking this. Let me do a blog.
Oh.
So then literally I started a blog, and then after I started the blog, I did the blog for about a year, and then I was in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and it was very racist, and so I wanted to create community, and I started having events, and I started hosting these self-care workshops, and now we're here. Like,
Wow. So it was like you wasn't really thinking too hard about it. You just started doing it.
mm-mm.
Wow.
Now I'm like strategizing, and I'm yearning for it because I know this is my God-given gift. He just aligned me on a path that I just became conscious and aware of, and now I'm just seeking that with all of my best of my abilities.
Yes, I love it. I'm here for it. So tell us about these workshops. So you start the blog, then when did you start the IG and the community and really made it a thing? What
So
year was that?
I think I started the IG about what year is this?
23.
22. Look, it's already a couple days in. Don't even know
Yeah.
the year. So, giving you a little timeline. So, when I first started, Self Care Lifestyle was official in 2020. Like this was before we even knew a pandemic was hit. That was my year. I'm like, okay, I'm about to make this a thing. I'm a really focusing on what I want to do, and as far as business wise, what self-care lifestyle. So before I even started the business, okay, that was 2020, like 2019. When did I graduate? No, let's screw it all back. I graduated Central State University. Shout out to my HBCU. In 2016, right? Once 2016 happened, then I moved to Pittsburgh, PA to start my career, and I was a public ally. And that was in 2017, 18. That's when I did my first self-care workshop. It's so funny. I still have the reviews and stuff, and I had all these 5 stars on the survey and what they learned from it. I'm like,
Oh,
oh, but
really?
then I didn't even think nothing of it. I just knew, okay, like they had asked me to do it, and it was like in front of like 20 people. But so that was 20 what 16, 17, 18. I'll say 17, 18 because it started like at the end. And then the before that it was just the blog. So before that I was just doing blogs, and then that's when I first did a workshop. And then after 2019, that's when I was doing all the events. I was doing one event each month, started these workshops, and then now 2023, here we are. Last year I did beta groups for the Self-Care Lifestyle Academy, which is the series of workshops where we focus on the mind, body, soul, and spirit, so that they could become a source of self-awareness, self-love, and self-worth and value.
That is beautiful. Now I want to know, why did your coworkers reach out to you? We like, give us your sense. Like, what was you doing to make them say, "Hey, you need to teach us how to do this"?
In every job it was like that, and I was like, I think it's, you know what it is, I think I was always so happy. I would make sure I eat without working. I would take my walks. I would have great energy. And oftentimes, when you're in a place where things can constantly drain you, people are constantly burnt out, people are constantly unhappy, and the turnover is high, all these different things. Like, people want to know what's your secret sauce. And I'm like, well, I'm taking care of myself. Like, I thought it was things you're like me, like, that's why I said my brand found me, because it's literally it's a that's not even, I would say my brand is literally a representation of me. That's how I literally got started. But
Mhm.
yeah, like, I was just doing simple things that people admire about taking care of themselves. And that's when I realized how people really don't take care of themselves, when they don't prioritize themselves at all. And so it became a thing for me to like start giving out these tips.
Yeah. So what were the things, like, what were some specific things that you was doing that like stood out? Like, okay, was you like having a me day, like a self-care day, or was you always like meditating by yourself or saying, I'm gonna do this? Like, was you doing those things that was drawing people out?
I honestly think it was just me, my personality, me being
Mhm,
happy, me like literally eating lunch
mhm,
without working, me, the conversations I had about taking care of yourself, or the things in which I enjoy and which I have to do. And I think it really was how I carried myself, to be honest. Like, that's where I think it came from. Like, I wasn't hosting no workshops or doing none of that. So that's why I
mhm.
was especially at my second, like, that's why I was so, like, it literally followed me at every job, and that's what I will always, help people in. But it wasn't nothing like, to me, that was like, as far as actually doing workshops, giving workshops, I wasn't doing none of that.
Oh, okay. Is it, how was you right? Like, did your parents do that? Like, did they set the tone for you to like incorporate? Because not everybody is like, that's not a thing. Like,
Absolutely.
especially back in my day, it wasn't a thing to, you just had your own. That's great that
No,
you realized that.
it's actually the complete opposite. When people, I be telling them, go read my about bio, you'll figure out my life, child. I say I'm a product of all of these different labels: single parent household, drug addict parents, growing up in that household, poverty, sexual abuse, what is all my other labels of trauma? But it was so funny. One time I did this, if you're in therapy and stuff, you know about the ACE test. And I'm like, the ACE don't got that no me, because I ain't crazy yet. And they was like, how did you become this person and not these statistics? And it was really because I saw what was happening, and I decided to do something different about it. A lot of people say that, but it takes application to really do something different than what you have been seeing. Like we don't have to be taught what was wrong. You'll know, your spirit to tell you. Like, we have these instances for a moment. If you believe in Jesus, like me, honey, the Holy Spirit to tell you if you're listening. And so, like, y'all probably like, this girl so extra. I'm literally like this all the time. But so like I had this really as a young girl growing up like this, I had this really deep discernment that I did not want to be like this, and I wanted to use what I saw around me as an example to not be like that and become the opposite. And it, it burst the self care coach here today.
Yeah. I was reading this quote on IG the other day, and it says that a baked potato or a boiled egg, sometimes you can, if you boil a egg, it'll get hard. Oh, it was potato. Sometimes you boil it and it'll stay hard, and sometimes you boil it and it'll get soft. It's
Mhm.
only your mindset in which you make it. I think that's how
Yeah.
the saying goes, or whatever. But it is a mindset. If you say, I don't want to be this way and I want to make a change, a difference, then you have to do something about it. And that's good that you said you saw from past mistakes or previous people with examples or whatever, how that was, and you saw you didn't want to be like that. So that's commendable. I know for myself, unfortunately, I lost my father to suicide and I dealt with mental health. And I didn't want to make the same mistakes that he did. So I was just like, let me check myself in and really see what's wrong with myself. And that's when I started my self love journey. Like, okay, I can
Mhm.
get through this, because I didn't want to, like, he did it, so I'm gonna do it, because mental health is real, and sometimes it takes us going to therapy. So, what made you start therapy? 'Cause I know you said you started therapy. What made you start? Like, okay, let me go talk to somebody.
So it was before I answer that question, one thing I realized when looking back is I really heavily depended on outlets. So although all that stuff was going on at home, I had outlets. Like, we used to go to the center, which is like a community center where they have games and workshops and things for you to do, or after school programs, like being involved in things that were free because we ain't had no money. And that taught me, like, my business, to have different outlets for self-care. And so that's how I came to that stance on that. But when it came to therapy, it was crazy. When I was in college, I would go to like steps and Destined for Greatness, and it would be women and people in these rooms talking about their stories. And I remember saying, I feel so ashamed. And that was the first time I felt like, dang, like, I'm not the only one going through these types of
Right.
experience. So I had to get that shame up off me. And I remember one day I said, I'm gonna be able to tell my story and say it boldly and say it like, when I talk about trauma, I be smiling. People like, what's wrong with you, girl? Because the trauma don't got a hold of me at all. Like, I understand what it
Mhm.
did, and I understand what I'm capable of doing, because like, even with trauma, you got to retrain the brain, and you got to be able to show up. I'm reading The Body Keeps Score, so that's where that's coming from right now. But anyway,
Mhm.
before I go off on a tangent on that, as far as therapy, I remember one time I was just like, when my emotions, um, that's where I was going when I was in college. So I had a shirt, and in this organization, it's called Steps. Struggles transform into extraordinary possibilities. That was the acronym.
Oh wow, that's powerful.
Yeah, and on the shirt, it say "I am," and then you had to put a word like that described you, and it usually was like a word of trauma. Mine was emotionally and stable, because I just felt all these different emotions. I never communicate how I felt. I kind of let people identify who they thought I was. I kind of just like allowed people to be me. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Whatever it was, just seeking all this different type of validation. It was because as a child, um, my mother's first choice wasn't us. It was, or my dad's first choice wasn't us. So all constantly seeking all these different types of validation. And so growing up, I just always compared this stuff. And then I started learning and educating myself in books and podcasts and sermons. Shout out to my girl, Sarah Jakes Robert. That's my home girl, my head for real.
I do listen to a lot of her quotes and inspirations on IG.
Yes, like, it's so crazy. Last year, I was able to collab with her on the Woman Evolve podcast.
What?
Yes, girl. Yeah, it's called Reset Your Esteem. Yeah, girl. Yes.
That's
I
a
just
good feeling.
oh, so go check it out. It's called Reset Your Esteem or Woman Evolve podcast on all platforms. But yeah, so I remember, you see, I be always got a story time, but I be liking to give people a little story so they could kind of
Yeah,
know.
go ahead.
But therapy. So I remember going to this therapist for like 2, 3 sessions. The first session, they kind of getting to know you and stuff like that. She called me like a catalyst because of how aware of what I was going on. We did the little family tree, and I could see the cycles like at itself, and what everybody was going through and experiencing. And she basically told me I was superwoman, and um
You
like
super.
I was already aware of what was happening. So in a sense, I stopped going to her because number one, I had to pay out of pocket, and number two, I felt like, okay, she kind of validated me in the way that I kind of knew what I was doing. So
Mm-hmm.
that was my only time going. Then I kind of just used all different outlets, and really big on self-awareness and self-reflection, and identify my own voice, identify my own story, identify not what I think is happening, but what is actually happening, like the reality, and seeing it what it is, and being able to apply tools that in order to serve me so I can become and live in my highest version of myself daily. And that don't look like the same every day. It just looks like what's doing best for me each day look like.
Yeah, and before we move on with the conversation, I want to say I commend you for going a positive route because we are kind of stabilized as the angry black woman if we have past trauma. They
Mhm.
don't know our struggles. They judge us and say, "Why she look like that?" But you made something different. You wasn't the statistic and say, "Oh, she's just another angry black woman." You want it to be different, and I want to commend you on that because there's so many women who don't want to be different than their past. They want to be mad at the past instead of moving forward. So
The thing
kudos to
about
you.
one of my self-care essentials in the starter workshop talk about is trauma, understanding your triggers and how to cope with them. Because people, one thing trauma is like it will live if you
Mm,
allow it to. But
yes.
you have to be able to recognize it as a past so you can start being present in your future to know what it is that you are seeking for and know that you're able to achieve that. And I think at a very young age, I realized what has happened to me doesn't have to define me, but it made me who I am. And so I put that in my, I put that in my about section in my love on my website. But I always learned that you could turn your trauma into trauma, your pain into purpose. Like literally, our life is a living testimony. Like we all are going to go through something, and it's not to be shallow of what we're going through. It's not to say that this not right. It's not to say that you even had anything to do with it. It's just to say it happened, sorry, whatever you need to. That's what therapy I think really comes in it for, because especially cognitive therapy, they really validate your feelings a lot. um and understanding that, and just being able to really move forward, because sometimes we allow the trauma to live so bright. You know what I'm saying? And that's not my story. That's why I'll never usually leave with the trauma. People don't even like the stuff I've been through. They be like so flabbergasted, and I'm like, why do I gotta leave with the trauma? I'm like, I don't mind telling the story because I want y'all to see where I come from, but I don't allow the trauma to shine over the light of the goodness. You know what
To
I'm
define you. Yeah, I feel you. And for me, so I started therapy, and then during the pandemic, 2020, I had a timeout from everybody. I was isolated from everybody. And first, I just wanted to start a blog like you, like okay, because I'm a type 1 diabetic. I deal with this, whatever. I just wanted to be like a pretty Instagram page. I wasn't
saying?
even, and like kind of like you, it kind of fell into my lap. And then I talked to a virtual assistant. She was running a special like $50 during the pandemic. And she was just like, "What do you identify with most? What do you like to look at on IG?" And I was like, "Brown girls and all this other stuff." And then she was just like, "Well, it sounds like you're like a brown girl that wants to embrace who she was." And it was just like, I do, because I'm ready to be okay. With my low self esteem before, I wanted to create that, and I wanted to find women around the world like me, not just in PG County where I live or the DMV. There's girls
Mhm.
all around the world that has a similar story like me, and we could connect and vibe or whatever. So I appreciate the pandemic because I was able to go full throttle. Because at first I'd be like, I don't want them to know what I'm going through, but I was able to tell my story and meet girls like yourself who we
Mhm.
can share where we were and where we were before and where we are now, and how this self-love community has helped us grow and how has it inspired other women. So the next question is, how has this been beneficial? How has this inspired you to keep moving when you have a post on IG and somebody responds to you and say they appreciate it, like how has that been for you?
It's beautiful because I just feel like I'm so aligned with God's purpose, and I feel like you said, it's creating communities so where we can learn, where we can grow, and where we can empower one another. And that's the best feeling in the world, when you are able to show up as purpose and live in your purpose on purpose. Ooh, that was a word. But so, and it's crazy when you said 2020, it was so crazy because so many people, even during the pandemic, they was asking me, how am I okay? Like, why am I so happy? And I'm like, I learned to sit with myself. Like, maybe I like ever since I graduated from college and I first moved in my part, I learned to sit with myself. That mean like that means understanding what's going on inside my head, not being afraid to um address it, deal with it. Like, you know how I seen somebody said something before where it was like, don't run from it, run to it. That was me. I was running to it, addressing it one by one. You know what I'm saying? And it took the work, and it always birthed something so beautiful. So for anybody that's scared to address what has happened to them, just know that it's gonna birth.
And that's
Yeah.
a lot because women are not able to embrace what's going on.
Hmm.
Thank God we are able to accept it. Like, okay, this happened in the past. Where am I today? And a lot of people don't want to hide it and they want to present themselves as perfect, but life is not perfect, and that's reality. And we have to live and deal with it because there's not we can't change our past. We can only move forward and figure out what we're gonna do next. So
Hmm.
people don't want to sit in it. So it's just like really inspiring to know that, hey, I dealt with this and it's okay. Cause this a girl out there like you who had a, a trauma with their parents leaving them or not accepting them, and you know, so this is
Hmm.
really, really good. But um continue, what was you saying? Did I cut you off?
No, you didn't. No, you were totally fine. You didn't
Oh,
cut.
okay, okay, yeah. But yeah, so how has things been the last 2 years on the pandemic with the community and everything growing and these workshops you've been having and these conference you've been going to? Because I'll be seeing you on IG. So tell us
Yeah,
about your
girl.
work. Tell us about
Um,
your first workshop though, your first self-love workshop that you started for your girls.
Yeah. So it started with the very first workshop I told you about a few years ago that I did for public allies, and I did at my other job, and then I actually did at my other job with the youth and stuff like that. I basically call it that, the starter workshop. So I talk about 5 things that you can do to invest in your self care, and then baby, let me tell you, last year I decided I'm going to uproot my life and go all in for my purpose. I just felt divine to do it. I was not happy with the work that I was doing as far as my full time job. I wasn't happy in the community of racist white people and being around white people all the time. Um, and I just was not happy in Pittsburgh. So I'm like, why am I sitting here? Why am I staying here and doing this?
Hmm.
Like, oftentimes we sitting it up for ourselves. If you have the opportunity, which I am so grateful for, like the person, even when you talk about forgiveness, even though I grew up and my mom chose drugs first, she's been almost, how many years she's been clean? 15, almost 15 years clean, and she my
Congrats
biggest
to
supporter.
her.
He dang near birthed everything and all the tools for my business. I uprooted my life. I moved back home, so I was staying for myself, fresh out of college, staying with myself, living on my own, uprooted my apartment, uprooted my income, uprooted my lifestyle, uprooted everything that I was going for, to put everything into self-care lifestyle. Because now it's me versus me, because I told you the brand is a representation of me. And so how do I want to really show up in it? And so now I'm at this point, I'm so excited, even though I haven't my goal is to have that luxury black girl lifestyle. I'm definitely here for that trend and all of it to come. Um, but and want to move somewhere southern and stuff. But right now, I'm still at my mom's house figuring it out, and I created, and I had the time to create. Like I had the space opportunity to create. And when I say God just delivered me, like I just be making up stuff. A lot of people when I send out all the newsletters and stuff, they be like, "Where you be coming up from the stuff?" The hard, like it just be coming out, write it down. Like a lot of that stuff I do like in 10 minutes is crazy. But the work
Mhm.
that you gotta do to build it, that's what takes the longest part. But anyway, so I did started with the starters workshop. So that's the first in the series where I'll teach you how to identify your needs, feelings, core values, trauma, and your self care regimen. And then we tap into the mind, baby, because that's where people. I start with the start because before you can even understand what's going on, you gotta understand those 5 keys in order to become aware of yourself. So then in the mind of my business workshop, I break
Yeah,
down.
my business. I heard that title.
Yeah, yeah, it's called Mind of My Business. It's 5. I teach you 5 ways in how to invest in your mental wellness, and so we tap into. I'm really big on alliteration, so I always start stuff with the same letter, but we tap into what I call like the 5 C's in order to invest in your mental wellness. And I give you like little mind checking tools and different stuff that you can use now, like not stuff that is future self. Everything I always talking about when you get there. No, I give you stuff to get there. And then we go into the body beautiful opportunity to do you. That's the acronym for it. And we talk about nutrition, body image, nutrition, body image, and the other 2 is movement and rest. So we talk about those 4 things to invest in your body. Then the soul, suiting my soul, that's all about self-love and become the asset in who you are by learning to accept, affirm, assess, and aspire who you were, who you are, and who you are becoming. And then lastly, the spiritual warfare, which a lot of times um people don't know. In order the war that's going on with you starts with you not being aware of you. So it's
Oh,
really,
that's a word right there.
yeah. So it's happening to that war within yourself by investing in that stillness, sacrifice and substance in a faith-based approach. So those the series of the 5 workshops, and that comes with a self-care lifestyle tote, which you get a devotional, girl, that I made. I didn't made a whole workbook of all 5 of the series as you go along to be able to reflect the self-care lifestyle journal, as well as the pen. It's investment portfolio pearl. It's an actual cute little tote, a tumbler, and 3 herbal teas that I created. One for the gut, one for the ease your body stress, and the other one is for your hormones. So it's called the powerhouse. So all of this is in your self-care lifestyle tool, so we can get your self-care lifestyle to get in your bag, get the bag. Okay. So
Yes.
I know that was a mouthful, but that's the biggest thing going on. And of course, I got the self-care newsletters dropping every Thursday and Sunday, and the ebooks and blogs.
Nice, nice. So let me get this. You said you do this full time?
Yeah.
Wow, that's a heavy responsibility because do girls constantly reach out to you for advice? How does that work? How does that normally go? And even after they experience the 5 workshops, how do the girls reach out to you after that?
So it's crazy with the beta groups. It's so crazy. Like
It's beta.
I
Okay.
will do
Okay. It's
the beta
different groups.
group. No, so a beta group basically me. Last year, I basically had the test run of these workshops to see how they would really help people, to see what they would do for people. And so I got all these different reviews, and it's so crazy because a lot of things of what the feedback I was getting back is how I make self care so simple, and how I simplifies the tools to do what's necessary for them, but not telling them what to do, but helping them discovering what's necessary for them to do. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm not a one, two, three, 4, 5 type of girl. Like I'm a girl like is give you the tools to become awareness of yourself so you can identify those tools for yourself, because I want us to be capable of recognizing our inner voice, that little girl in us, that girl in us now, and then that future girl that we're trying to be.
Yeah,
But
I
as
agree.
far as people coming to me, like I'm still growing. So I'm still growing. I get a feedback when I do the workshops and stuff like that, but I don't do one-on-one. It's crazy because
Oh, okay.
I do one-on-one, but girl, this is like groups, like group workshop where we had core up. It be lit and they be all in the chat. We all be having a real good time. But I don't do one-on-one because I learned when I was doing one-on-one in the workforce. That ain't what I want to do.
Okay, gotcha.
Unless people pay me time money because it's like they think basically they calling me the therapist. No, I'm
Yeah.
not.
But are you a life coach? You are a life coach, right?
Yeah, same. Yeah, I call it self care coach, life coach, but they
Yeah.
definitely
Okay.
the same thing. Yeah, they're definitely the same thing.
Yeah.
Personal development.
Yeah, I am not a life coach nor a therapist, but I do want to have this year 2023. I do want to have the Queens Talk sessions, one-on-one sessions, because
hmm
um I realize girls need help with
hmm
their confidence and their self-esteem. And I do better, me personally, I do better with one-on-one. And
hmm
a crowd like Sunday, I went out with some friends. In the crowd, I get anxiety, my heart start racing. And I don't know if it's the pandemic that messed me up or I'm just able to do it on my own or whatever. But yeah, so this year I want us to do the one-on-one sessions this year. So
I
I'll
love
be
that.
calling up for tips about how you started your sessions and everything like that. And I do want to do more workshops. So
I the nice thing about me, I would like to keep stuff intimate, so I'll cap it at 20 women. But I would sell out like it was amazing. Like I sold out all of my workshops last year. But guess who showed up?
what?
Yeah, but listen, guess who showed up? It's one thing to sign up, but it's one thing to show up. So I would have maybe at the most have like 7 women. So it's even more intimate, it's even more connected. And it was crazy. Like I love that by the end of the workshop, I don't even be having none of them got no questions. They just feel on fire to do with them. And then when I follow them on thing, I always check in on how they doing. They be all vulnerable. I'm like, they just because of my transparency and my truth and me just being able to use my transformation to really do others. So that's exactly what you go do.
Yes. Oh, thank you. Thank you. Because I be feeling like, oh, what am I doing over here? I can't do it or whatever. Even me doing this podcast, this is like, okay, is this right? Is this right? It's just like the anxiety be taking over me, girl.
I even be thinking about all of that.
Yeah, but me. That's the only person that's thinking about it, but
Yeah,
me.
but you in your head.
Yep. So when is the next workshop?
So the next workshop is going. I'm about to launch the date very soon this month. And so what I want to do is I want to because one thing about the girls, like they want something physical. Like and physical, I'll be telling them that's gonna cost because physical is cost. But once I get these final details of these bags, then it's gonna be launched. But if you subscribe to the self-care newsletter, you'll be the first to know. But it is going to be this month, and then the subscribers will know first.
Okay, so is it in person? Is it online? Because you know we're in different states, and I do
Virtual.
want to
Yeah.
say,
It is virtual. Everything is virtual. I'm not at the point. I feel like my big goal is to have a self-care lifestyle studio, but also to have self-care lifestyle retreats where they have get the academy in full, the bag and the experience, different also wellness women in different capacities. So that's like the ultimate goal. But currently everything is offered virtually. I think when I said I moved to North Carolina, I would do some stuff in person, especially because the sun and all that. But
mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, right now, and COVID is still very high right now. I currently have COVID as we speaking. I just came
Oh,
off, but
really?
huh?
I'm sorry.
No problem. But I'm able to talk to you right now. But yeah,
Mhm,
I caught it a couple of weeks ago. I mean, well, I caught it like last week. But yeah,
mhm.
it's still pretty high. But we got to keep pushing. That thank God things are done virtually. You know what I'm saying? So
Everything, the world didn't change now, girl. So we good on that. But literally everything is virtual. And it was so crazy too. When I was doing the beta groups, like I first started off doing one workshop a month. That was good for people. But when I started doing like I would have 5 workshops in 5 days, maybe 2, maybe 3 would make it to the end. So that taught me that a lot of people when they went and based off the feedback, they still in the starter workshop area. So it's like I feel like that's why I created it going month by month. And as you grow, you can go to each level of the workshop. And you get to choose which workshop you want to start. Well, I always recommend to start it, but some people when they hear mind in my business and mental health, they go straight to that one. And
yeah,
then
I would love to start
like
that.
it's so crazy because some girls at the one when I did the mind of my business one, I'm doing a workshop and I'm at the same time teaching the starters because they don't know that. So that's why I was telling them like come back for the starters because that's gonna make a lot of sense. Before you can know what's going on in your head, you gotta know what's going on with you. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, I'm excited. I love talking about this.
Yes, and I'm gonna hit you up probably in another hour and talk about your workshops because I want to pick your brain because I definitely want to start and you are motivating me to start. Like
Yes,
this
girl,
is nothing. I just put them together and I'll be like,
brain,
okay, I gotta take it.
brain dump. That's one thing I talk about in Mind of My Business workshop. Like brain dump your thoughts on what you want to do so that you can start making those thoughts a reality. Like I knew my like I wanted to be four tiers, like mind, body, soul, spirit. That's what I always talk about. And that's how, I felt like self-care was overall. So and then I don't know, like when you really are called for and you discern for it, it literally comes to you. You don't even have to look for it. You don't have to find it. You don't have to discover it because it's within you. That's the only discovering that you have to do. It's within
Yeah.
yourself.
And you know what? Even during the Queen's Talk, people used to be like, Leslie, you ask so many questions. And I was like, you know what? I asked a lot of questions. So let me start this podcast where I'm going to be asking people questions about what I want to talk about. So I like to say that if people say I ask so many questions, I always like when Candy Barrett, she said, I always turn lemon into lemonade. So, remember Candy
Yeah.
on Housewives? She said, talked about
Yeah.
that when she started the dungeon tour because she said, well, she
Hmm.
just had a dungeon. So but anyway, yeah. So tell everybody where they can find you on all platforms: TikTok, IG,
Hmm.
YouTube. Tell me all your platform names.
So if you want to stay updated, which both platforms do it, but one of them is more of a personal, but it's still all tips and stuff and just the cute kind of. But at Self Care Lifestyle on Instagram, that's where you're gonna find the updates in like plain form and everything. I post on both platforms every day, and then on TikTok is OH. Please, Please. Yeah. And then of course you can subscribe to the self-care newsletter to begin becoming that source of self-awareness, self-love, and self-worth and value with tools and tips each weekly. That's why I tell people start with first, because all of the free stuff, that's where y'all should be starting. Okay. Because when it's time to put your money where your mouth is, you will already be aligned by beginning to do some type of work on yourself on a weekly basis. So that's www.selfcarelifestyle.co.
Okay, cool. So let's smile for the thumbnail real quick.
Mhm.
Okay, so don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.
Yeah.
She's still smiling.
Yeah. Like I like my eyes closed. I don't know why.
Okay, so don't forget to like, comment, subscribe to my channel, Brown Girls Embrace, and Khadija's channel. We thank you all for watching, even if you watching the replay. Thank you all. Yeah, and see us. Join us back next week on the Queens at 8 o'clock. We'll talk to another queen. And thank you, Khadija, for your time tonight. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Yes, me too. Thank you for having
All
me.
right, night. All right, good night.